Hey there, welcome back friends. In this video we will talk about some very basic form validation. So let's get started. So in here in this form, this is a very simple form. If I click on submit, there is no validation. We are simply submitting the form, but in real life scenario validations are very important. So let's understand how we can add couple of very simple form validation. So if I open up our project, we have this user form view. Let me open this up. So in here, for example, we want to make this particular field as required. We have to enforce a rule on the user that without submitting anything inside this name field, we cannot submit this form. Then how we can do that? One of the most easiest way is using required. Now, if you check out the list of attributes available, you will find that indeed there is no attribute by the name of required. Right, so this is strange that Eclipse is not showing up an attribute, but in fact if you manually type in this required equals true, let me save the changes. What happens is if I refresh the page and try to submit the form, let me refresh the page once again. I suppose it haven't reloaded properly. It's true, but it is not showing up the changes. Let me retry. Alright, so let me do one small little thing. Let me restart the web server. Alright. And now let me retry to run the application on the web server. Then it should reflect the changes. This will take a couple of seconds. Alright, and here we go. Now for example, I click on submit, it will say this is a required field. Perfect. Now similarly in here we also have a yet another very useful thing, which is placeholder. So in here if I type in placeholder equals and give a text like enter name, that would be interesting, and refresh this page, then what happens is it will start showing up enter name whenever the field is not highlighted. Now take a note of it. As soon as I click on the field, the placeholder will get removed and we can simply type the information. Apart from that, whenever we hover upon this field, it will also show this is a required field. So these are HTML5 driven features which are very handy, very useful. Alright, so this is nice, and let me do one thing. Let me add the required rule to rest of the elements again. So when we talk about required field can be added in any of the field, right? So in here, for example, checkboxes are there, right? So we can make use of this attribute for checkboxes again, but I will show you why we should not. Alright, so we have add the required field for text area, select, radio button, and input, which is nice, which is cool. Let me refresh. Alright, now for example, I try to submit, then it will say that introduction is required, name is required, so let me add in the name, gender is required, so let me add in the gender. Now in here, this drop down, even if we don't add this required attribute for the drop down thing, it is perfectly okay because by default it will have a value selected. So required field is not necessary in here. So let me refresh the page. Alright, so let me add my name, gender in here. Introduction is hello, for example, and try to submit. Now here comes a issue. For example, we add in the required field for checkboxes, then that checkbox will become required. So in this scenario we may not use the required field for the checkbox China, so we will get rid of it. But for example, there is yet another checkbox. For example, a checkbox like I accept, right? In those kind of scenario, you can make use of a required field. So for example, let me quickly add a yet another what we say, checkbox. So in here I will add a new paragraph tag first of all, and in here I will add in a new checkbox. I will get rid of the path. We won't use a path, and the value would be accept. And for example, it would be like for accept agreement, right? So in these kind of scenario where you want to enable a requirement that the user should checkbox the field, then you may add this what we say, a required attribute in here. So take a note of it. Apart from that, the placeholder attribute should be used whenever the type is similar to input or text area. Whenever there is a field where user can enter a text, in those kind of scenario placeholder are useful. So now finally let me refresh the page, and here we go. So it would be like Chand, mail, India, hello, Germany. And indeed, let me get rid of it. Visited country is optional, and let me click on submit. So now accepting the agreement is mandate, so we have to accept the agreement. Apart from that, nothing else is required. So we can submit the form, and it will simply give me the result. So this is how these what we say, placeholder and required can be used, and these are very useful way of validating your form. Alright, so in our next video we will dig more into the validation stuff, and that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day and take care.